And we're recording. All right, everyone. It is 4 o'clock and we're going to begin. Welcome, everyone, to Teaching English Online, Privacy, Security, and Safety with our English language specialist, Elizabeth Plummer. And I am Kevin McCoy, and that is Ivana Bankovic. Wave, oh, Ivana, there we are. We're in Belgrade, Serbia at the U.S. Embassy with the Regional English Language Office. And security tips for Zoom today. It's best to log into Zoom directly rather than through a third party. And check and see if you have the latest version of Zoom, especially for tomorrow. We're going to be recording this webinar, and we are going on Facebook Live right now. So if you have a full name, like I do, you might want to just rename yourself. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So you'll see 3 dots next to your video square or rectangle. And if you click on those, you can put your pointer on rename and put in a new name. That way, people can't identify your full name. You're going to be discovering a lot of online platforms and apps here. One of them is Zoom, which we're using now. We try to show tools with free versions, but this does not amount to an official endorsement by the U.S. Department of State. We use these tools because they work for us. We hope that they'll work for you too, but there are many more available. Now, on the bottom of your screen, you have a toolbar, and we'd love for you to click on that chat button and comment as we are going through the webinar today. And I can see that many of you are already saying hello to each other from so many different countries. This is fantastic. And we're really lucky today to have a special English language specialist, Elizabeth Plummer. She has been providing professional development for the past 7 years in online education, computer-assisted language learning, teacher development, research methodology, and she does it all. She has a PhD from the University of Iowa, and she was an English language fellow in South Africa. And Elizabeth and I did a very big program in Madagascar where she was a star, I have to say. So we are really pleased to have Elizabeth Plummer joining us from somewhere in California. Elizabeth?
Hi! Let's go swimming, let's go swimming. Yeah, let's go swimming, let's go swimming, let's go swimming in the bottom of the ocean. Now, sometimes when I think about privacy, security, and safety, I think that I am swimming in the ocean. But because we're awesome, we don't have that problem here. Well, we hope we don't have that problem here. One of the things I want to mention before we get started is that I'm going to use a lot of tools, as Kevin mentioned, and all of these tools, including this presentation software, are linked in our course website and will be available on Thursday. We're going to give you the information about the course website, if you don't have it yet, at the end of today's session, so that you can look forward to that. As we get started, I want you to have a paper and pen if you can. Now, if you don't have a paper and pen to write down, and you like to type it on your computer, your notes on your computer, that's okay. That's what I do. Or if you're amazing and you can remember things and you don't need a paper and pen, Can you tell me your secret? Because I need a paper and pen in order to remember things. So one thing we want to do today is for you to increase your understanding of privacy, security, and safety. So as you have your paper and pen, that's what you're looking for. I want one thing. You see that? One thing. We're going to talk about a lot of different ideas, but just think about one thing I can do to increase my understanding. Okay? And now that we've all made it here, it's time to start with our high fives. So I want to see those high fives on the screens. I got to see them. Come on. Let's see those high fives. I'm getting them. Oh, yes. Let's see those high fives. This is my friend Angel. She likes high five too. So in our pre-course survey, which many of you took, we asked you what 3 words come to mind when you think about privacy, security, and safety. I took that information and I put it into 3 lovely word clouds on privacy, security, and safety. Take a look at these. Do you see words that are similar among the 3 of them? I see protection, password, data. Do you see some things that are different? I see photos. In safety, I see comfort and cautious. Oh, cautious is in security as well. I see antivirus and security. So there are a lot of similarities and differences among these 3 things. And I think about them in this great Venn diagram, that there are things you can do for each of them. And then in the middle, there are things that you can do for all 3 of them. And hopefully you hit things in the middle, but you can't forget all of them sort of work together. When I think about this idea, I think about how I do these things in my house. How do I protect my privacy, security, and safety in my house? And then I translate those ideas into how I can do that online. So in my house, I have a lot of messes. And I don't want people to see my messes. I have this background back here hiding the mess in the storage closet. Perhaps you have messes that you don't want people to see. Or perhaps you have other things in your home that you don't want people to see. It's okay to not let people see these things because they're private to you. And then online, you have private things as well that you don't want people to see. Perhaps you have pictures you don't want people to see, or you have personal information. I keep things secure in my house by using locks. I like this chest because it doesn't just include a lock, but it also includes a chain. Now, in online, they call these locks either passwords or encryption. Passwords and encryption. And that's how they keep your information secure online. So just like we lock up things in our homes to keep them secure, we lock up things online to keep them secure. So the last thing, my parents just put up new blinds in their house as a safety measure. They don't want people to see in their home. They want to keep it safe. So there are things that we do to keep our home safe. And there are things that we do to keep us safe online. And that includes that we protect things and don't share things unless we need to share them. And when we share them, we feel comfortable about sharing them. So we can kind of summarize this like this when we're thinking about these 3 things online. Privacy, you're choosing who knows what about your personal information. Who knows what about your personal information? Security is the protection of your personal information through passwords, through encryption, or through not sharing things. And then safety is minimizing the risks to a breach of your personal information by carefully making choices as to what you share and what you don't share and how you share it. That seems pretty easy. Give me a thumbs up. That seem pretty easy? Yeah? I see lots of thumbs up. I think it's pretty easy. I think it's so easy that we need to have a dance party. So I want to see you guys dancing. I don't see anyone dancing. Woo! This is one of my favorite songs. There's our dancing. Okay. So it's so easy that we can do this every day, all day, every day. Yeah? I don't see a lot of really strong, confident people out there. Well, one of the challenges as we try to actually implement them is we run into things like this, where you have to check the box and there are links to terms of use and privacy policy. So, have you ever fully read those terms of use and privacy policy when clicking agree? Kevin's going to push out a poll. We're going to be honest because this is anonymous. Have you ever actually read those things? You click agree to it. Those of you who are joining us via Facebook, just think about this question. We don't necessarily want you to post whether or not you have or not, so that you can protect your privacy. Look at this. We have a lot of you who haven't. I know I have never fully read one. I've skimmed them. I've scanned them. I've ignored them. Look at this. We have 37 people who have read them. That's phenomenal. You guys are superstars. People are saying not every time. Someone always, even when it's long and boring. Oh yes, that's my uncle. Even when it's long and boring, he still reads them. Okay, well, this is one of the biggest challenges, is that often to get things that are free on the internet, we have to agree to those privacy and security statements and agree to whatever they're doing. Otherwise, we can't get access to them. And we think, yeah, I want something that's free. I love free things. Do you love free things? Let's get our high fives. Seal of approval. Free things. Let me see those free thing high fives. Yeah, I'm getting those free thing high five. I love it. But they're not really free because they come at a big cost in terms of those agreements. As someone said, long and boring. Or someone says they just pay attention to the more important details. I think that's what I do. When we're teaching English online, this is especially troublesome because our students are learning English. And if you are having them sign up and agree to these policies and they're only written in English, how are they going to understand what it is they're agreeing to? So they're placing a lot of trust in you as the teacher, that you have looked at this material and you think that it's safe and is protecting their privacy, security, and safety, and that they're going to be okay. So that places a lot of responsibility on you to understand what it is and to carefully pick and choose what you're going to do. One of the challenges to this in our personal life, as well as in our teaching life, is that most of us would rather use something which is convenient but privacy eroding than use a product that makes life less convenient for us. How many of you guys have been signed out of your account that's automatically signed in and felt, oh my gosh, this was such a pain, now I have to re-sign in? Or you're looking for something that used to be easy to find, but you can no longer find it because you've cleared your browser out and are on a new computer. We want it to be convenient. Do you have your phone set up so that it automatically logs you into anything? That's convenient, but privacy eroding. I love, Kevin says, I hate retyping passwords. I hate retyping passwords too. And tomorrow we're going to talk about some tools to help you so you can use strong passwords, but you don't have to retype them all the time. And that's what I do because I also hate retyping passwords. Retyping is boring. You are right. Okay. We had a survey that talks about this. I do at least one thing to help protect my privacy and security when online. And as of 3:25 this morning, when I pulled this, we had 224 people, and 45.5% of them say that it's usually true of me. 20.5 sometimes true of me. We're not going to talk about those not true of me, because by the end of this, we're not going to have any of those not true of me. So in this, we see that we here as a group are willing to sacrifice some privacy for convenience. Now there's a lot of us, 32.1%, who always do something to help protect their privacy and security when online. We all want to be there, that we always do one thing. Remember, that's our goal. We're going to do one thing today. So let's talk about teaching online and what this looks like when we're teaching online. So imagine that you are my student. I taught for 3 years a course on educational technology to students who are preparing to be teachers. I taught more than 300 students in those 3 years. And this is one of the assignments that I gave them. So think, you are a student, you're preparing to teach online, and you're learning about educational technology, and this is your assignment. Now you're an adult, you're in college. I want you to create a video of your teaching philosophy, no more than 1 minute long. Upload the video to YouTube. Set the privacy as unlisted or private, and caption the video on YouTube. Are you concerned about privacy, security, or safety as a student in my class? Write your thoughts in our chat box. I didn't give you all the parameters of this. I only gave you the things that are important for privacy, security, and safety. We have some no's, some yes. Over there in the chat box. Are we concerned? Still yes? Yep. Nope. Of course. Yes. No. We have a little mix here. Certainly. So some people are, and some people are not. Why are you concerned about privacy, security, or safety? Some of you haven't thought about it before. That's great. Let's think about it. Why are you concerned about it? What are some things that make you concerned? Because it would be on YouTube. One is always concerned about online safety because we use our devices for nearly everything. That's a very good point from Anton. I'm paranoid. I'm paranoid sometimes. I may be getting students in trouble. These are adult students, so it's less likely. For young students, that's definitely concerned. Identification, intellectual property, artificial intelligence. My brother is in artificial intelligence, and I don't think as advanced as you guys think from talking to him. It's advanced, but not quite there yet. Creepy people out in the world. Identity fraud. Someone might watch it and post comments. Yeah. That's okay for being late. We're happy to see you. The video can be changed, abused, misused, and who knows what by some other party. So when I designed this assignment, I thought about these three things: privacy, security, and safety. And this is what I thought. In privacy, all my students already have Google accounts because it was a requirement of the course. Now, whether or not that was a good requirement or not is not necessarily a discussion for this time, but they all had them. I asked them to set the privacy as unlisted, meaning that only those with the link can view. So it's less likely to be distributed widely around because you have to have the link to find it. It doesn't come up in searches. Or private, and share it with me. Private means that only the people you share with can see it. So that takes care of some of your concerns, that people can share it and post it around, because only I am seeing it. They're only giving the link to me, or they're sharing with me via private. But it still is YouTube. When I thought about security, I encouraged my students to create a professional account when they created their Google accounts, so that they could keep their private and their professional lives separate. So my hope was that they uploaded their video to a place where they didn't have personal stuff. But that's pretty much all I thought about security. I still had them create the account. And the last thing I thought about in safety is that I designed the instructions to eliminate personally identifiable information as much as possible. So I asked them to talk about specific things and to exclude specific things. So if they talked about a personal experience, teaching experience, they shouldn't say where that experience was. So some of you have talked about some of the things I missed. Disabling comments. I didn't think about that because I didn't think anyone else would see the videos. Maybe I should have. We have a great question from Kevin, Relo Kevin. Should students have a student account separate from a personal account? I think they should. That's why I had it in my course. Whether or not they did it or not, because they were adults, was up to them, but I at least taught them. So I felt pretty good about this. We got to have our high fives. Where's your high five? You feel pretty good? I was like, yeah, I'm doing great. Woo! I'm doing good. Yeah, we're doing good. I'm protecting their privacy, security, safety. Until I saw some of my comments from my students. One of the things I found out that having a Google account is not the same as having a YouTube channel to upload videos. It's a different set of privacy. So they were agreeing to different things. So I was requiring them not only to set up a Google account, but also to set up a YouTube channel. That's two things. I didn't think about the teacher-student relationship. Me as the teacher, I was telling the students, you have to do this for the assignment. I didn't say, if you're uncomfortable, talk with me. I didn't say, there are alternatives to posting it on YouTube. What I was focused on was this last point, convenience. Captioning videos on YouTube is super easy. I wanted my students to have that experience of captioning videos so that they could make their stuff more accessible to their students. And that was a convenient and easy way to do it. And I thought it was safe in protecting their privacy. But some of my students were not unhappy with this. And some of them were unconcerned about it, like many of you were. So in my time, 3 years of doing this assignment, I only had a handful of students come to me and say, I'm concerned about my privacy. And for me, now looking back on that, that's very concerning to me because I didn't address their privacy concerns. I just sort of assumed that they would feel good about this, but they were trusting me. So our English students are trusting us. So we're going to think a little bit more about this. Ivana is going to share our Mentimeter. Those of you on Facebook, here is our web address. So the Mentimeter is in the chat box for you guys to go. Let's think about what is important in our classrooms.
Hey everyone, are you ready for a quick quiz? We want to hear from you and your opinion. And here we have a couple of statements that we want you to respond. To what extent do you agree or disagree with these statements? So you have a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is strongly disagree and 10 is strongly agree. And I hope you can access the Menti code. For everyone who cannot click on the link, you can also go to menti.com and use the code 9513 that you can see on the screen and enter your responses. So the statements are as follows. Engage parents, show them the online tools students are using to collaborate, fill them in on the dangers of inappropriate use of these tools. Then teach students about responsibility, accountability, and respect. Have a cyberbullying reporting system and ban digital harassment in class chat. Then we have set clear boundaries, involve students in creating guidelines, outline their digital rights and responsibilities. Then we have keep up with students' interest, keep up with tech trends, apps, and social networks popular among your students. Another one is be aware of social media's do's, have parental consent, have your separate account for professional use, edit out sensitive data before publishing it or sharing it, create private online communities just for your class. Then be aware of social media don'ts. So don't display students' info on public walls or whiteboards. Don't share students' names or faces without consent. Name files using don't name files using students' names. Then familiarize yourself with relevant laws and regulations, for example, GDPR. And last but not the least, have or create school policy and procedures for online teaching. Use a certain LMS system, Zoom, vetted digital tools, etc. So here, I hope you can see we have some answers and they are live. Most of you agree that these are some important things to consider while doing the online teaching.
Thank you, Yvonne. This is Kevin here, and we'll give you just a little bit to read through those Mentimeter statements. And Elizabeth, most people really strongly agree. Those last two get pretty tricky. Familiarizing yourself with the laws and regulations and school policy and procedures. Do you want to say anything about those two?
Yeah, so on our course website, I put a link to the GDPR that has a much easier language for you to understand. There are a lot of guides for helping companies to comply with GDPR, but I think that this one is great to help you understand. It's not necessarily great for your lower level students or your intermediate level students, but you understand, what does it mean? And what are my rights as a consumer? One of the things that happened last Thursday that's really interesting, and I posted a link to the story in the news on our course website, is that the EU court said that this agreement between the US and EU that sheltered some of the companies from fully following the GDPR can no longer happen. And this is great if you're in Europe, because now these companies are no longer sheltered by this agreement. So understanding exactly what it is helps you to understand whether or not someone is actually complying with it. We're going to talk a little bit tomorrow about how we can find out where the transparency, which is one of the GDPRs, meaning where they say what kinds of things are being collected and what kinds of things that you can opt out of, are on a web page. And it's different for different places.
Elizabeth,
So
may I butt in here?
Yeah.
We have some questions on what is the General Data Protection Regulation. Can you just give us a really quick definition of what that is and where it is?
Yeah, it's in the European Union. So any companies that operate within the European Union have to follow a set of privacy and security policies if they're going to offer any kinds of services to people online. So that means if you are accessing something from the European Union, and that means that if they collect information about you, they have to tell you what information they collect about you, and you have to be able to tell them, I don't want you to collect that information. And it has to be easy to find. No matter what, they have to, you have to agree to allow them to collect that information. So that's what cookie banners are. So when you go to a web page and it says, we collect cookies about you, that's the GDPR in action. They're telling you, this is what we collect about you, and you have to say, yes, it's okay for you to collect this about me. And if you don't say, yes, it's okay, they can't collect that data about you.
Will they then deny you access to anything on their website or platform?
Some of them will. That's a great question. So some of them will. Some of them require that you opt in to certain things in order to engage in the web page. For example, last week I was playing with what they call third-party cookies, and we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. And I disabled all third-party cookies on my web browser. And when I went to work on Friday, I couldn't access half of the things that I needed to access because I had third-party cookies disabled. So I was trying to log into sites and things weren't coming up. And I did not connect my lack of access to the blocking of third-party cookies on my web page. So yes, and that's why you have to decide, do I really want access to this? Do I really want my students to access this? Because I may have to opt in.
Shall we go to the next question? We have one more here, and it is again your opinion. What should the school policy include? So even if you have one or if you don't have one, what do you think it should include.
I just have to say that I love the comment. It's unfair that they've named them cookies. I think you are absolutely right. It is unfair that they've named them cookies. All over the internet, they say cookies and makes you hungry. So some of you have school policies at your school. And some of you are unsure or don't have one. So if your school doesn't have a school policy, you should think about creating a classroom policy. We're getting some great ideas that we require our students to change their password regularly. Monthly is probably a little too much for our students. Every 3 months, every 6 months. Including our, what do we do with full names and other personal information? Honesty. What do we have? Do's and don'ts about what to be exposed on a student's profile and platforms in general. That's really great. Our individual privacy. Do you guys have some nice specific privacy guidelines? It's really sort of ambiguous and broad. What does a privacy guideline look like? Regulation about the way in which students and teachers are protected online. Who has access to data and the reason why they have it. I love that. Who has access to data? The reason why they have it. In my work, I do this all day, every day. People want access to students' data and they have to tell me why. Why do they want that access? And they have to give what they call a valid business use case. It can't be, I just want to see, which some people do. They often come to me and say, I just want to see. And I'm like, sorry, you can't just see. This is students' personal information. What do we have?
We also
Agreements.
have apps and platforms that should be used. That is very important point. So some vetted tools that you as a school, as a community agree that these are good tools to use. And even if you're using some LMS, learning management systems, which one, why, it would be nice to have it outlined in the school policy.
Yeah, that would certainly simplify things, wouldn't it? If your school says these are the favored applications, please use these.
Yeah, there are a lot of schools that actually do that. School districts that actually do that in various places in the world. So maybe if your school doesn't, you encourage your administration, your teachers to come up with a list as a group of what things that you think are relatively good to use.
And this is a nice time to think about it because we are at the beginning of a new school year. So this should be a good time to start thinking about it and start making the school policy if there is none.
Yeah. So some of the things, and it might be in here, there's a lot going on, that I think about is student usage of the policy. What regulates students' use of the information? And we talked a little bit when we were talking about YouTube about, lots of you mentioned commenting and bullying, those kinds of things, cyberbullying, and the policies surrounding that should be a part, in my opinion, of your school policy. Your students are just learning how to use these kinds of tools, so we need to help make sure they understand. Have a seminar on matters about data privacy so that everyone must be aware of their digital responsibilities. It's great to have one seminar. What happens when you have one seminar is that you get really excited and there's so much information, and then you go out and convenience takes over because you run out of time. And you've got to get stuff out to your students. Your students are waiting for you. So we need to have it be a continual thing. So maybe this week we think about one thing that we can do. Next week we think about something else we can add to that.
Thank you very much for all your great comments and responses. You can continue replying, but I think we are moving on now. You can still continue replying and you can see all the responses in your links on your computers.
Yes, make sure you save that because there's tons and tons of good ideas from all of your colleagues to help you. And there's so many great ideas that we all need high fives. Let me see those high fives. Yes, I'm gonna give Angel a high five. She's feeling left out. Woo! High five. We have some great ideas out there. So maybe you came into this and you didn't think you knew a lot, but there were a lot of really great ideas from all of you. That's a great idea. Joint project. Come together. Try to do a joint project. Right, that's okay. So, what do you think about our webinar here? We're giving this webinar for free. Is there a cost associated with it? What is that cost? We advertised it as a free time and engagement, time and effort, private info, your email address. Oh, you gave the Relo office your email address. You suppose you have to leave some data? I love that you guys are all talking about it's time consuming. Hopefully it's time well spent, that you guys don't feel like you're too much time. There is a cost, and the cost not is just in your time, but also in your providing your internet provider or your data provider with your IP address and what you're doing. So you're leaving footprints. You may be signed up for this and you gave the Relo office your email address, so they are emailing you. And hopefully you think that they're pretty honest people. They put in their privacy policy that they're not going to share your information with anyone, that it's only for managing and organizing the Relo event. So they made it pretty clear and transparent what they're going to do. So no matter what something is advertised at, there is always a cost associated with it when it's online. So think about those hidden costs. And we're going to talk about that more tomorrow. So that's a little preview tomorrow. I hope you're excited. What is the cost? So remember at the beginning, I said, I wanted you to think about one thing that you can do to increase your understanding of privacy, security, and safety. Privacy, security, and safety. One thing that you can do. Have you come up with something? Before you leave this room, before we finish, I want you to have that one thing. And that one thing might be your homework for tonight, or you might have another idea. You might have another idea. So before we look at our course site, because we're about at the end, can you imagine and believe we're almost at the end? That we're going to have our Q&A session. So you can post questions in the chat box and we might get to them, but I'll show you where you can post questions on our course site where we're pulling these questions from so that we will answer these questions live. Our first question is, can I post pictures of my students online? This is a great question. Great question. Can I post pictures of my students online? If you have ideas, you're welcome to put them in the chat box. I'll tell you what I think about this question. You must get permission before you post any pictures of your students online, you must get permission. Permission can be granted by your adult students, but if you teach students that are minors, permission must be granted by their parents. One thing that's really important is that if they give you permission to post pictures on your course website that maybe is password protected, that doesn't mean that you can post pictures on your school's social media or on your own social media closed group. Permission for one is not permission for another. So you must get permission before you post any pictures of your students online. Some schools, as people are saying, that they get that permission for all students in their schools. And sometimes that's true. They get the permission in the beginning, it's signed up. But I still, as a teacher, would let the parents know or would let my students know, this is what I'm going to do with your pictures. Great. Some of them are, they can complain after, you're right. They can complain after from one of our commenters. After you post it, then they can complain. So what do you do? If they complain after, what do you do? I would talk to my students, to that student. You agree to this and I'm sorry that I posted, you don't like it. I will take it down. But the internet is forever. So I will take it down. I will go through the effort of making the site that I posted it on, delete it completely, because taking it down doesn't necessarily translate into it being deleted off their server. And because of the GDPR, they have to allow you to completely delete anything that you want. The internet is forever. There's a thing that's called the Wayback Machine that highlights this. The internet is forever. So hopefully we'll get a chance to play with that in our sessions. Okay. Your school policy should cover this. I love it. Put it in your school policy. How do we make sure it's deleted forever? That's a great question. How do we make sure the picture is deleted forever? Every site is going to have a different procedure for making sure it's deleted forever. But the GDPR says that they have to have it. It doesn't say that they have to make it easy for you. So sometimes when I've had to delete student information, I've had to send a massive email that then gets routed to 3 or 4 people talking about what I wanted deleted, why I want to delete it, you know, and then after 2 weeks, it gets deleted of emails back and forth. And in some other cases, it was pretty easy. I submitted a form and they deleted it out and sent me confirmation. So every site is going to have a different thing of how you delete it. Okay.
Elizabeth, I've got a question from the chat box from Yolanda.
Yeah.
Is what if the assignment requires photos as evidence of doing the assignment and they have to submit it online?
That's great. That's really great. So you have to think, where are they going to submit those pictures online?
Mm-hmm.
Where are they going to submit those pictures online? So ideally, you have a secure course website that's password protected. And you have your students submit to that site. Canvas is one of those sites. Google Classroom is kind of one of those sites, depending on the kind of account you have. If you have an education account with Google Classroom, there's more protections than if you just have a general private Google account. There are more protections, especially for minors. So something we'll cover tomorrow are the difference between sites that provide services to minor students and sites that don't provide those kinds of services, and why it's important to try and always use sites that provide services to students, because they provide an extra layer of security because they're dealing with minor information. In most countries, the law says that minors can't give consent. So if a site is having you put minor information on it, they have to be really careful about how they collect that information and how they store that information in order to follow those policies and those laws, because minors can't give consent. So in some countries it's 12, in some countries it's 13, in some countries it's 16, the age at which someone can give consent to have an account. Moodle is also a learning management system that's password protected. Is a great place to post those pictures. Yes? Should we get a next question? How many accounts should I have my students sign up for? Accounts are things like Google or Canvas or Zoom, or if you want to have them have a social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you guys use. Or even when I was in South Africa, the kids all had WhatsApp, and WhatsApp is also an account. And my response is none. I should have my students' account sign up for none. I put 2 S's on students. Students, that's really funny. Students. So none. But if you must have students sign up for an account, try to keep it to no more than 1 or 2. No more than 1 or 2. One of the things, the traps that we get into when we start to build our curriculum is we find something that's really cool. And we want to use it with our students, but it makes them sign up for an account to use it. So pretty soon our students have 4 or 5 or 6 accounts. And you can't keep track of your password. How are your students supposed to keep track of their password? But even more concerning is the footprint that these students are leaving behind when they're just learning. When they're just learning. And one of the things that I want to talk about here about this, if you're having your students post in English, I'm an English teacher, I'm having my students post in English and put things out in English. They may make cultural mistakes. They might, because they're learning. They're learning the norms of the language. They're learning the norms of what's acceptable and not acceptable in the language. And if you have them post on something that other people can see, that might come back later. And people might say, well, you said this, when in reality, it's not what they meant. But if they post on a private site that's protected, you can, as the teacher, do what you're supposed to do, what I hope you do, and help them to understand what is acceptable and what is not, so that they can then go out and correct that behavior. So that way it doesn't stick with them when they make those mistakes as a student. Messenger, WhatsApp. Yep. Okay. So as few accounts as possible, think, do I really need to use this before having your students sign up? Let's do one more. Are there concerns about using social media to connect with my students? A lot of you in your survey said that you use social media to connect with your students. And the concerns about using social media is that it's not for education use. It's for social use. It's designed to share as much as possible. And yeah, they have privacy protections, but social media is in the news more than any other place when it comes to privacy breaches and having issues with privacy and security, right? It's in the news more often. It's better to use a site that's designed for educational use to connect with your students. It also helps to separate out their personal and their professional life, and for you to separate out your personal and your professional life. I think personally, I don't ever use social media to even talk with my students. To send them messages of what's going on, because that's letting other people know They are in my class. They are a student in my class. This is how they're doing in my class. If I'm checking up on them a lot, you know, they maybe aren't as diligent a student. You never know when those kinds of things will come around and affect their future. So I try to eliminate social media out, especially with younger students. If it's the only means you have to communicate, just make sure you're really careful about the choices that you have. Okay. Yeah, just be really careful. I know that sometimes we have constraints. This is why it's a balancing act between privacy, security, convenience, because this is about convenience. Students have access to it. They can get it with data. It's really easy. They're used to it. Convenience. It's really hard. Okay, so we're going to finish up. Our course is on Canvas. And I'm going to show you where you can post questions that we'll answer tomorrow. So if you have additional questions, you can post. This is our Canvas join link. Ivana just put it in the chat box. So you can copy that if you want to go, or write it down, paste it. And this is our join code, 9MEPXK. For any of you who are on Facebook, here it is. So when you go to this registration site, it's gonna give you this page. You click on I'm a student, and it will pop up with your student registration. So our join code goes right up here at the top. You put your name. It says your full name. If you put I am a super happy person there, it's still going to accept it. Decide on a username, a password, confirm password, email, and then there's that privacy policy and terms of agreement. Are you going to read it, or are you just going to click it and then click start learning?
Just to emphasize here, Elizabeth, sorry to interrupt though, you do
that's
want to
great.
click on I'm a student, because if we know you're teachers, but for this course, do click on the I'm a student. It'll be much easier for you to get in.
Yeah, if you click on I'm a teacher, it will require additional information for you. Thanks for that,
Yeah,
Kevin.
I did that.
Additional information. Yeah, so to ask for your phone number and stuff, because if you're going to teach minors, they have to verify you. Okay, so when you get to the course site, this is our homepage. And for today, we're going to go in this bottom left corner where it says day 1, Introduction to Privacy. Introduction to Privacy. When you click on that, you're going to get this beautiful day 1. So this first one, that is our homework for today, an education product evaluation on privacy, security, and safety. And working individually, you're going to decide on an education product and evaluate it. Now, some of you aren't going to use education products. So if you want to evaluate Facebook, go ahead. If you're using it for education, you go ahead. We want to hear about that. So the second one, after our session today, do you have a question you want answered this week? You're going to post it there on the discussion board. We'll be answering questions live again tomorrow. And then the last one is our in the news, privacy, security, safety. I've seen some of you guys post. Have you heard something interesting in the news about it? Let's hear about it. Okay, so this is what the homework assignment looks like. Choose an educational product. I have some recommendations at the bottom of it. Answer as many of the questions about its commitment to privacy and security and how safe it may be. So there are lists of questions that can help you that you can answer. Answer at least one question per section, and feel free to skip any questions that are not relevant to the product. Post your answers in a new post on the discussion board. So if you want to do this for one thing you can learn, pick something that you're already using and try and answer some of those questions about it. Great. Did you have something else you wanted to cover, Kevin, before we go?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for coming here today, and we'll be here at the same time tomorrow. And I'd like you all to put your virtual hands together for Elizabeth Plummer and give her a round of applause for uh, this great session. The time went by really fast, and I hope that you guys all think so. Virtual high fives. And another high five for our super moderator here in Belgrade, Ivan Abankovic. Hi, high five, Ivan. And we had so many great questions here today. I've been collecting them. So go to Canvas and get to know each other. And we will see you all tomorrow. Elizabeth, are you going to sing for us?
I am going to sing. We're going to finish up. This is my goodbye song. I teach online a lot. And so we're going to learn. Goodbye, goodbye. I'll see you next time. Goodbye, goodbye. I'll see you next time. Should we try it one more time? And then we're going to close out. Ready? Goodbye, goodbye. I'll see you next time. Goodbye, goodbye. I'll see you next time.
See you at 4 o'clock tomorrow. That's Greenwich Mean Time plus 2 hours. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
I gotta end Facebook.
You just want to